Welcome to the first episode of Kotlin Bits. In this episode, we're going to talk about implementing the maybe function from Haskell in Kotlin. All right, so first, let's talk about what function is maybe. So here we go. So this is maybe from Haskell. Don't worry too much if you don't understand what Haskell is. Basically, it takes a default value and a function that converts an A to a B, and then a maybe A. You can think of this as like a nullable A, and then it returns a B. So if we wanted to implement that in Kotlin, we could do a few things. So let me set up a problem. Basically, we have an extension function for isEven and a null if odd function. I just need something that returns a null, a nullable, or a maybe A in this case, so I can demonstrate the issue. So if this is even, then we'll just return this, else we'll return null. Okay, so here are three possible implementations for the maybe function that I came up with. If you have more in the chat, let me know. So we take a function of t and u, so a nullable t and a default u and a function that converts t to u. So we can say this let f on it. So this would apply the function f to a non-null t or return a default. And we'll see one problem with this implementation in a little bit, but I think this is the most obvious like initial implementation one would come up with. Then we could have maybe two, very similar function, except this time we're going to say when this is null, return the default, else apply f to it. And the third possible one is a slight variation on the first one, where u can be any. And it's the same exact implementation, but there's one important detail with this one, which we'll talk about at the end. So let's look at the tests that I came up with for this thing. So spoiler alert, these commented out ones don't actually work. But let me show you how this is meant to work. So let's pretend we had an x that was nullable, and it is null at this current point. We apply maybe with a default of 1, and then if it's non-null, we'll add 10 to it. Otherwise, it'll be 1, right? That's the default. So in this case, this should be true. So this evaluation should be 1. In this case, we'll start with a nullable x and the default, and then add 10 to it. In this case, it should be 11. Now, the special one is if we try to apply a function that returns null. So if we have maybe 2 and a nullable x, which is currently 1, this is not odd. It is odd, so it will return null. And so in this particular case, I want this function to return null. So the answer should be null. And the problem is in this particular one, with the first implementation, it will be the default value, which is 11. So let's just uncomment this and run the tests. Okay, so you can see that it fails. We expected null, but it actually gave us 11. And that's because the result of this is null. So if we go look at our implementation again, you'll see that when this is null, it will just return the default value. And that's the problem with this function. You cannot it's not generic enough such to accept a like a nullable u. So that's where this comes in. The third implementation basically allows this implementation to be correct. However, it means that the function that you pass u can never result in a null because it must be a t to a u function. So we'll see that, let me just comment this back out. And then we'll come down to the spec 3, and we'll see basically that this doesn't compile. And you can see right here, this is not allowed because we didn't allow u to be nullable. And so the return just can't happen. So it's a valid implementation of the function, but it's just not allowed to, the compiler won't allow you to have a nullable u. And so that's like a way to protect yourself. So this is like a pretty common implementation for maybe, and it's the one that I would use moving forward. Thanks for checking out the first episode of Kotlin Bits. If you liked the video, feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll figure out what that noise is later. Thanks for watching.